evening. A woman in Los Angeles has decided to speak publicly for the first time about an incident in 2008 involving Russell Brand, which she says happened in an office building shared with the BBC. The woman, who worked for another media company, says Russell Brand exposed himself to her and then laughed about it on his Radio 2 show. She's been telling her story to our correspondent Nomia Iqbal, who sent this report from LA.
You're listening to BBC Radio 2. It's the Russell Brand Show, and here's your host, I am...
Actor, comedian, presenter, and now alleged sex offender. Russell Brand is facing a growing list of claims of sexual impropriety which he denies. Now, we have spoken to a woman who says Brand exposed himself to her just moments before recording an episode of his BBC Radio 2 show in Los Angeles. Olivia, whose identity we are protecting, did not work for the BBC, but did work in the building. She says she was in the bathroom when Brand came in and stood over her.
And he said, "I'm going to call you Betty." And I said, "But that's not my name." And then he said, "Well, I'm going to f*** you." And I went, "What?"
Olivia says the door was closed as this was happening.
And he pulled out his penis on his hand and served it to me, you know, as you would be serving someone some food. And I've said, no, you're not going to f*** me. And then all of a sudden there was like banging, like bang, bang, bang. Like, "Russell, you want it, Russell. You're wanted in the radio studio."
Olivia said Russell Brand left the bathroom. He went outside to the hallway to meet his team. Moments later, she said she also walked out of the bathroom. She said she remembers feeling ashamed, embarrassed. She said she was red in the face. She also remembers walking past a group of men who were hanging out here in the hallway. She continued her journey to her office that way. Meanwhile, Russell Brand had entered this studio where he went on to pre-record his Radio 2 show, where he and co-presenter Matt Morgan laughed and joked about Brand exposing himself. The BBC has removed some of Brand's offensive content from its services, but we think it's important to hear this moment.
I won't be able to drag her off into a cubicle and show her my pubicles. That would never
How long
do.
ago did you do that last?
Been a long while, Matt, since old Rusty Brand.
25 minutes since he showed his willy to a lady.
Very easy to judge.
Olivia had been told on the day of the alleged incident that Brand was talking about it on air. Because no management approached her, she assumed it never made the final cut. But after the news broke about Russell Brand, she says she tracked down a recording of the programme. In a statement, the BBC said, "We're very sorry to hear of these allegations and we will look into them. We are conducting a review to look at allegations of this nature, and if the woman who has shared her story is willing to speak to us, we would be very keen to hear from her. We will of course speak to the Bureau team and anyone who was working there in 2008 as part of this." What's your reaction to the BBC now investigating?
It's a bit late, but isn't there a sense of duty? The audio that I heard at the weekend was vile. What made the BBC think that was appropriate to go out like that? I just don't understand why they didn't investigate this much sooner.
At me with kisses and stuff.
Her claims come after an investigation by the Sunday Times and Channel 4's Dispatches programme, in which 4 women alleged they were sexually assaulted by Russell Brand between 2006 and 2013. The Metropolitan Police also says it's received a sexual assault allegation from 2003. Brand has denied any wrongdoing.
I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual.
The BBC is looking at these latest claims against Russell Brand as part of its review. But the corporation also faces many questions about Brand's time at the BBC and what he was allowed to say and do on air for so long.
And Nomia, in the last few moments, we've just heard from Russell Brand's former co-presenter, Matt Morgan.
That's right. We received this email from Matt Morgan, and it's a long statement. In it, he says, "I stopped working with Russell Brand several years ago." He says during the time that he worked with him, he was not aware of any allegations of serious sexual misconduct against him. I'm going to read another part of the statement verbatim. He says, "I was not aware until now of the nature of this encounter. that we're reporting. I've expressed my regrets now looking back at the impact of the show, and this is a further example. The recent coverage has been very distressing to read, and I reiterate my absolute condemnation of any form of mistreatment of women. That's the statement that we have received a short while ago from Matt Morgan, who was the co-presenter alongside Russell Brand on that show that we've been reporting on.
OK.